thank you all for the panelists and for our audience for joining us. My name is Aaron Gonzalez. I'm the co-executive director here at the Catalog for Philanthropy. And we have three wonderful panelists joining us today. I will give them an opportunity to introduce themselves in just a moment. I just want to mention that we do have a limited amount of time today. We'll do our best to answer questions from the audience for our panelists. If you do have those questions, feel free to put those in the chat in the right-hand panel, and we'll get to them as best we can. And otherwise, let's go ahead and get started. Kate, can you kick us off by telling us a little bit who you are, what organization you're with, and a little bit about the work that you do?
Sure. Yep, I would be happy to. So my name is Kate Talbot, and I am the VP of Operations and Finance, and also one of the founding members of Solutions and Hometown Connections. We engaged with refugees and immigrants in the DC metro area, and we help them as they adjust to their new lives here in the US. We connect newcomers to existing services and resources. And in cases where we have identified that services that families need aren't existing, we have in that case created programs as a solution to an unmet need. One of our largest programs is our English language learning program, which is for refugee and immigrant moms who have young children. We found that these two components of families were not able to integrate and didn't have a natural entry point for engaging in their new communities. So we created a program, and it's been successful because there really was quite an unmet need. We also have a program called Homework Helpers that helps school-age children from refugee and immigrant families. And that was born out of sort of a need that parents indicated that they needed help or their children needed help. A lot of parents who are learning English or who have limited education just aren't in a position to help their kids at school. So, you know, when we see a need, we fill it. When we can connect people to existing resources, we do. And I'll just say in our work, we are not alone. We have over 70 volunteers that work with us, that are tutors and support and welcome family members in our community. Everyone's back. So we've been in existence since 2017, and during that time we've engaged with just over 800 individuals across 235 families across 30 countries. And we've got most of our 75% of our families are from Afghanistan and Syria. 25% are from Africa and Latin America, and less than 5% speak Spanish. So that's sort of a picture of who our target audience is.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. I love that the work you do to kind of fill those unmet needs. So I appreciate you talking a little bit about that. Joan, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and the work that you do?
Sure. My name is Joan Hodges Wu, and I'm the founder and executive director of Asylum Works. I began Asylum Works just over 4 years ago because of my frustration as a social worker serving asylum-seeking survivors of torture. Most people don't realize, but the DMV area is home to 50,000 asylum seekers. And while the United States is only one of 44 countries that accepts individual asylum applications, we stand alone as the only country that denies asylum seekers access to basic needs and simultaneously denies permission to work. So I created Asylum Works as a way to right this wrong. Today, we offer our clients a holistic approach that combines trauma-informed social services, employment assistance, and community support. And best of all, our model is now proven to help asylum seekers regain their confidence, take back control of their lives, and most importantly, win their asylum case.
That's great. I love your passion. That's wonderful. Just real quick, I should disclose I was an attorney in my former life, but I love the passion that, now that I'm in the nonprofit world, the passion people bring to their work here. So thanks for sharing that, Joan.
It's very easy with such incredible clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Abel, can you share a little with us about your work and what it is that you do?
Sure. So I'm the executive director of the Central American Resource Center. I'm an immigrant from El Salvador that moved to the DC area in the late 70s and grew up here in Washington, DC, and actually the Adams Morgan neighborhood. And actually, Carecen has been around for that long. It was founded in 1981 to really serve the needs of the incoming Central American immigrants. Right now we are the largest immigrant group in the area, right? That's why I always tell my friends that you can get a great pupusa, but you can't get a great taco anywhere around here. And it has to do with the politics of the time that sort of led to this huge migration. But unfortunately, the Salvadoran community was never given any status, refugee status. Our organization's original name was the Central American Refugee Center, and we did that intentionally to kind of take that and saying that we were actually serving refugees. So currently we're serving with 3 programs. We have a legal clinic on immigration. We do primarily affirmative family petitions, citizenship, U visas, and a lot of what we call brief services, a lot of renewals of green cards, work permits, change of address, things of that nature. We also have a housing program that focuses in rental education, foreclosure prevention, financial literacy. And then we have a citizenship program that prepares people for the exam and the interview so they can be successful in achieving their citizenship. But we also do a lot of advocacy around for our community. We do it at the local level, at the national level with partners, and at the international levels. We've led delegations to El Salvador where we've been international election observers. We took a delegation of 23 people, and we continue doing that work. And just with the city, we were part of a coalition that got $2.5 million for the Immigrant Justice Service Legal Fund that the city has in Washington, D.C. And we got not only $14 million for excluded workers stimulus funding in this last budget cycle, in this budget cycle. So we're trying to provide services to our community that have been excluded from other services that might be able to get.
That's great. Wonderful work. I appreciate you sharing all that. I should also say too, as a second generation Mexican American, these services and this work is close to my heart. So I appreciate all the work that you're doing. Obviously COVID has really been something that's impacted every aspect of our lives and has been especially impactful on those communities that we serve. So I want to ask you to briefly talk a little bit about how that, like court closures and everything that's come with COVID, has impacted your clients, and how you've shifted your work and how your work has changed as a result to meet those needs. Joan, do you want to get us started?
Sure. Well, COVID has certainly presented challenges. By the end of April, I would say about 70% of our clients had lost their jobs. These would be clients like Josephine. Josephine is an asylum seeker from Sierra Leone. She's here in the United States with her 2 young children. And before the pandemic, she had made tremendous strides with Asylum Works help. She had stabilized a chronic medical condition. She had gotten a job. She was paying her bills. She even managed to move out of this bed bug infested basement apartment she had been renting. But when COVID hit, overnight, all of that security she had worked so hard to obtain, it virtually disappeared. She almost immediately lost her job in hospitality. And within a few weeks, she was really struggling to pay her bills and provide for her family. Not only that, she was terrified of what would happen if she contracted the virus because she did not know what the future looked like. If she got sick, who would take care of her girls? And if she went to the hospital or worse, who would care for them? These were the questions that she was preoccupied with. Most people don't realize, but asylum seekers don't have a social safety net to help. They weren't receiving federal stimulus checks. They didn't have protections from one of these state economic plans. It was up to an organization like Asylum Works to step in. And so while COVID has amplified the disparities in our country, it really has just created an even greater dimension to our work. I think one point that I just want to make, this feeling, this black cloud that hangs over us because of COVID, this is probably the closest approximation to the asylum seeking experience. Our clients live in the suspended reality. These questions that we are asking for the first time: who can we trust? Is it safe to go outside? When will this be over? This is their everyday. And so while these feelings might be new to us, this experience is not new to them. Imagine if 2020 repeated itself for 3 to 6 years, which is the time it takes for an asylum case to move through the courts. Now imagine if you were doing this in a country by yourself, and by yourself in a country with a language and a culture you may or may not understand. Would you survive? Yes. But would your mindset be permanently altered because of it? I would imagine so. Because the state of the asylum system is so dire, and now we've layered COVID on top of it, our clients cannot find hope and faith in the legal system. And so it's up to organizations like Asylum Works to meet that gap.
Thank you for sharing that, John. It's such an interesting perspective. Looking at it as the challenges we face now is something that this community faces on a daily basis. That's such a great perspective and a great way for us to look at it and think about what these individuals are facing. So thank you for sharing that. Kate, can you talk a little bit about how this has impacted your clients and how you've kind of shifted to address those needs?
Sure, absolutely. Joan used a term a moment ago that was in my head as I was thinking about this question, which is sort of a layering of what are already challenging circumstances. So, all newcomers have to learn our systems and our processes. And in general, they're more complex usually than where they're coming from. And then you layer that on with not having English language ability. And so, we've got folks who are, for example, I'll use an example of, learning to file your income taxes every year and having to do that generally online or find someone who can do it for you. So that's a process you have to learn. Now imagine the person who loses their job as a result of COVID, sort of layer onto that, now navigating unemployment benefits and unemployment benefits in a system that is being bombarded with so many other people seeking unemployment benefits, and that the system has to be retooled, which is sort of what happened in Maryland. So it's just sort of this layering on of another factor, another barrier. One of the greatest challenges for us actually turned out to be a really great accomplishment in a way. As things were shutting down in mid-March, all of our in-person programs, like everybody's, had to go to virtual remote platforms. And so we quickly realized that we were going to need to help our audience, our students, be comfortable using Zoom. And so we adjusted our whole teaching platform and came up with a new framework that was based on Zoom, shorter classes, and sort of a multi-layered approach to teaching. We knew that some people did not have regular access to the internet and wouldn't be able to log on to Zoom classes. So our teachers do 10 to 20 minute videos on key teaching points and post those to our YouTube channels so our students can access those independently outside of class. And then we also engage with our students regularly on WhatsApp. And so there's a sharing, there's a multi-day, multi-way platform that our English language learners are engaging with their teachers using different technology, building digital literacy. And this is coming from students, most of whom don't have an email address. So that's how we've shifted to continue to meet the need.
That's great. And I think that's something that has really kind of come out of this as well, is these disparities existed beforehand, the lack of technology, the lack of access to unemployment, things like that. They've just been amplified by the current crisis. And especially with unemployment, I'm sure in that many situations they're kind of the last of the table, as you said, because there's such a great demand there. So I appreciate how you've responded and how the organization responded to address those disparities that have grown even more this pandemic. Abo, can you share a little bit about how your work has changed and how things have impacted your clients and who you work with?
Yeah, so I agree with what Joan and Kate have said, but I think I do want to bring something else up that for immigrants, there has been a hostile environment by the current administration, right? I mean, a severe attack, cancellation of TPS, DACA, changing of how asylum was adjudicated, public charge. I mean, you can name the list of direct attacks to our community. So that was already happening, right? And so there was a machinery put in place to slow down the ability of people trying to submit their cases into the system. And so when COVID hit, right, I think two things happened. We needed to adjust as organizations to help serve our community, right? And for us, meaning going remotely. And I would say, as much as we love this platform or Zoom, our clients don't. And so we needed to be clear about what our clients need, right? So, Kate mentioned WhatsApp, and that is a way they communicate. So, they use YouTube, they use Facebook Live. And so if you choose to do Zoom, then that means you need to invest 4 or 5 times as much time, because you need to then train them to use it before they can actually get whatever you're trying to get across, right? So you have to figure out, okay, what is it that they use? Because our community engages with technology in a different way, right? So, yes, the digital divide is real, but our community engages through phone. So you have to find other mechanisms to use it, and like YouTube, Facebook. These are things that people already use to communicate with their families in the countries of origin. And so that's what you have to sort of understand. So for us, it was a learning curve of not trying to impose what we use as staff or organizations, because for us, Zoom calls, conference calls were more common, right? But when we got to address our clients, we needed to really think, okay, how do we really access them? And I think that for all of us, immigrants really like that in-person connection, right? And we have lost a lot of that. And the other piece is the slowdown of everything. Everything is going in slow motion, both the way USCIS deals with cases, just the way we are able to get like documents from clients, and just the process slows down at a time when more people are reaching out to us because they have a greater need. So I think for us is this balance of how do we maintain optimal service to our community without burning our staff, and ensuring that we are trying to meet the new ways that the system that we're trying for them to engage are working, whether it's the unemployment, whether it's USCIS, whether it's the court system, whatever it is, everything is in slow motion. And so we've had to adjust. And you have to remember that for Latinos, the community that we serve, they have the highest rate of infection. So they got hit worse at both ends of the economic ladder. One, they were part of the hospitality, tourist industries that got decimated, and they got laid off pretty early on. So they have amounted a bunch of debt. But then you also had other parts of our community that were deemed essential workers. You're talking about construction workers, cleaning companies, medical care, and that's why you see the high rates of infection. So you have people with sort of cramped living conditions that someone would get it because they were using public transportation, still going to work, came back, and their entire family now was infected with less access to healthcare. So for immigrants and Latinos, it has really been a difficult time with COVID, and then add on all the isolation that happens. Mm-hmm. And it's a pretty dire thing, but people are persevering and are trying to figure out how do we move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the message of meeting people where they are and where they're comfortable is very important. I'm always surprised by how quickly these goes. We're just about out of time. But I do want to give people, if we can, in 10, 15, 20 seconds, just tell us what your biggest concerns are over the next 6 to 12 months and what we can do to help. And again, we've got about 1 minute, so if you can take 15, 20 seconds to do that, that'd be great. Kate, do you want to get us started?
Sure, yeah. So, as I thought about this, and I thought about the families that we work with, and there are a lot of needs and a lot of challenges, but the members of the family that I worry about the most right now are the children in families. I worry about their social and their like emotional and their academic growth, and what should have been happening at the end of last year and should be happening this fall. And while remote learning has helped, it's not a substitution for being physically present with their teachers, with their peers. A lot of the families that we work with, they're not leaving their homes very much. Their children aren't engaging with other kids. And that is a concern, a real concern. A big part of our English language learner group is that it's family friendly. And we work with young children ages 0 to 5, precisely to help them develop and be ready for kindergarten and pre-K. There's a study in Prince George's County that English language learners, only 14% are ready for kindergarten. And so we know that that's, if we can fill that void, if we can fill that need with some complementary play-based learning that's happening while moms are taking English classes, that's great. But I think about the school-age kids who really aren't being served as well as they could be if they were in-person classes.
Yeah.
So I worry about their long-term, well-being.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such an important issue. I mean, and it's something that, obviously I don't have the challenges that the people you serve do, but even if young children my own, it's something I worry about too. So I can only imagine the situations they're in.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kate. Joan, I don't mean to either shortchange you or Abel, but I'm getting the hook now. If you guys in like 10, 15 seconds tell a little bit about what you're most concerned about over the next 6 to 12 months. I'll let you go ahead and get started, Joan.
I am very hopeful for the next 6 to 12 months and very hopeful for the next 4 years. My worry is, who are we not serving? As I mentioned, there are 50,000 asylum seekers in the DMV. We serve about 300 households a year. The need is immense, and we need all of you to join us in our mission to help us meet this need.
No, absolutely. Thank you, Joan. And Abel?
I think that, we need to start working to ensure that our organizations are sustainable. Like, we're getting through the crisis, and most organizations are gonna weather it. But I think, are we gonna be sustainable long term? Because there are more crises. Just as we got hit with COVID, we're getting out of the health crisis. We're gonna get into an eviction crisis. We're gonna get into a deportation crisis. So I think that there are more crises to come, and we need to be strong to make sure that we can continue to serve all the people that come through our doors or virtually.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you to our panelists for not only joining us tonight and sharing your unique and interesting perspective, but also for the important work you do. I don't think we would be making it through this as well as we are without the organizations and people and the hard work of the people you work with. I want to thank our audience for joining us as well. I think this has been a great conversation. We are moving to the main stage now to learn a little bit about how you can get involved locally with these and other organizations, and also just some closing thoughts and remarks about the night. So again, thank you so much for joining us, panelists and audience. Appreciate it. I'll see you on the main stage.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.